panel of folks. There we go. So if these folks on the screen here want to come on up and join Matt. And this is now an opportunity, and it kind of goes back to your question about how is this being used in the classroom. Each of these individuals, and there are more in the room here, our stage, as you can tell, couldn't even fit the number of people that we've asked to be on the panel. But each of them has a unique perspective on what's happening in schools or in after-school time, summertime, to embrace this whole maker movement. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt O'Donnell.
Well, I think what was important that Dale said is that the people in the room are here to support you, and we're very lucky in the Bay Area to have so many teachers who are at the forefront of the maker movement who can support every one of us in the school. So I'm just going to ask each of you to briefly say, how did you get started in the maker movement? Because many people here are looking to get started and want some advice on what the first steps might be.
Chair. My name is Bill Lesko here. I teach down in Ross School, and I think I got started making an education 3 different times. My career started as a 5th grade teacher in Mill Valley. They used to take half my class every week for art, leaving me with the other half, and I had 1 computer in the class, and so I further subdivided those kids down, and half played Oregon Trail. This was a long time ago. And the other half, I brought in hammers, and we made birdhouses and things. We called it high-tech, low-tech, and it kind of grew out of that into this really cool project thing, and ended up teaching it as elective at the middle school. And then I moved to a high school, and I was teaching computer programming. And the second year programming students said, we're tired of making virtual projects on the computer, we want to make something real. And so we snuck in some tools and hid them behind the computers in the computer lab. And they built a wall-top computer mounted on the wall, totally visible behind plastic with all kinds of labels and everything. And then the third time was at the middle school when we, right now, I was hired at Ross School to teach basically computer lab kind of things, and then the superintendent kind of found out that I had this history, and she said, well, I want to teach an elective. And so I'm building this K-8 program right now, learning a lot of differences between the high school experience and the middle school and elementary experience. So it's a lot of fun and a lot of challenge. You just have to see it happen to know the worth of it. When I'm trying to explain it to a visitor, I just look around and see somebody having an epiphany and go, that's it right there. And I think that's the most powerful way to explain it.
I'm Andy Lennox. I am a beginning maker over at Brookhaven Middle School in Sebastopol. I came to this as kind of an accidental route. I'm a math teacher. I was getting kind of tired of math all the time, all the paper, all that. I wanted to do something else, so I put down I'd like to do something that involved maybe some Raspberry Pi computers one day. And that evolved into having a maker class. Oddly enough, while we have some shop areas and art areas in the school, those weren't available to me. So I have my pretty small math room surrounded now by lots of tools and toolboxes and laser cutters and 3D printers that the Rotary has been very gracious enough to purchase for us. Casey has been an inspiration and a support and just my guiding light to get through this at all. It's been a transformational experience for me. The kids in my math classes see all this stuff around the periphery. We took out all the desks in my math room and put in tables so that we could build things on them. It's been just a gas. I can't say enough about this. It's girls that are in my algebra class at the end of the day see what has been made earlier in the maker class, which is just 1 period in the morning. They want to get involved with that. They come in now in the 3rd trimester. We have 3 classes a year. They're finally able to adjust their schedule. So now I have them in my maker class. Just started 2 weeks ago for the last trimester. And they're breaking out of a little bit of a shell of, how do we do this? What are the directions? I don't know. What do you think? Have you used the drill? No. Tie your hair back. Let's use a drill. I was so unprepared for the maker class to begin with. I came in the first day of school, I found out I had zero money for it. Immediately, that changed radically over time, but the first month we were doing with very, very little. One of the first things we did was have a volunteer from the community who came in and showed us how to make all kinds of paper airplanes. Within minutes, these things were flying all around the room, and nobody had eye protection on. That afternoon, I went and bought safety glasses for everybody. And since then, that's the rule. Whatever you're doing, wear safety glasses now. We don't know what's going to happen. And that works. Anyway, the kids are doing a lot of different things. I just was able to bring in a little compressed air rocket that this new group turned out. Some girls got together and put it together, and it works really well. Anyway, I'm trying to get 2 maker classes for next year. So there you have it. That's my experience.
Good morning. My name is Mary Beth Smith. I'm an 8th-year teacher at Evelina High School who teach science, chemistry and biotechnology. It was 4 or 5 years ago I had the pleasure of being on our union negotiating team with Chief Negotiator Casey Shea when the maker class was started at Annalee, and I just thought he had the dream position. So last year when my principal said we were starting a maker class, I said, that's me. I'm the teacher. This is my class. So that's how I started. So this is my first year teaching a maker class, and we have 2 sections, 45 students. And it is a challenge starting a maker program, but it is ultimately the most rewarding experience and the most fun class that you could be a part of. So try it out.
Hello, my name is Robin Kopp. I'm an area director with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Sonoma County. During the school year, I oversee our middle school clubs, but last summer I had the amazing privilege and honor to direct the Make Camp at Comstock Middle School. So thank you, Dale. You know, it was such a natural meeting point between Boys and Girls Clubs and what we try and do every day for kids and the Make movement, which is give kids a sense of influence, competence, you know, really instill the sense that you can do this, you can have mastery over something. And, you know, create meaningful relationships with adults, with teachers from high school, and with other kids during the summer where, you know, maybe you're at home watching TV if you're not at Make Camp. So on the ground, I mean, those are a lot of great big ideas, but on the ground we saw this happening when kids were making CO2 cars and hot air balloons out of tissue paper. I mean, amazing. They flew so high. It was so cool. I was just blown away every day. I would come in and there were kids literally lining up at the door to get in to Make Camp. And these are kids who we struggle and schools struggle to get engaged. And they were there waiting, knocking our door down. And because Make Camp was so successful with the middle schoolers, during the school year, we're able to start Make clubs at our after-school program. So we have 15 different clubs all across the county. Our clubs start in Cloverdale and end in Rohnert Park. And these are kids after school, elementary school, middle school, doing Rube Goldberg machines and marshmallow shooters and duct tape wallets every day. So it's been really, really phenomenal. And another great piece for me was that I got the chance to mentor some high school students from Pioneer with the help of Dante. I went and interviewed, and we called them Make Camp interns. They came and they got a stipend, they got paid, they assisted students with their projects, and some of them even went on to then assist me with iPad Camp, which I ran through our Boys and Girls Club offices. So it was really, really phenomenal. And then another portion of Make Camp, the kids not only were creating stuff, physical stuff, but through our iPad filmmaking program, they were able to go around and make documentaries of the projects they were making, and then have that footage, those videos to show at our Make Fair, which culminated this summer. So it was a magical experience.
Hi, my name is Casey Shea, I teach at Annalee High School, and Dale told you most of my story of how we got started. Before I really get on, I really want to thank Dale for getting me involved and for getting us all involved. This wouldn't happen without Dale, and he's the spiritual leader of the maker movement. That's what I say. And thank all of you guys, all the teachers who are participating, and all of you teachers who had subs come today, and who knows what's going on in your classroom. You have to clean up after tomorrow. I know how much work that is, and thanks for coming. When Dan and Matt asked me if I would help put this on earlier in the year, I said yes, but I realized that not very many people are going to have the same pathway that I had. Essentially to intern up at the headquarters of Make and then fall into a great shop that just needed to be cleaned. So I asked some people that I know who were doing things in different capacities at different levels, different grade levels, different rooms and sites, and we couldn't all fit up here. So we're visible, the teachers with boots on the ground are visible with their either blinking or red LEDs. I want to just introduce them real quick. Dave Casey from Hamlin High School. Math teacher was actually my master teacher 100 years ago, and does more making in a math class than anybody I know. So thank you, Dave. Maggie Swarner is a science teacher at Maria Carrillo, and Maggie's brought some great stuff. I've seen her at maker fairs and seen her all over the place. Her little kids are going to be great makers when they grow up as well. And Parker Thomas isn't a teacher, but he's a person who came up right now. He works with us a couple of years trying to get stuff together, and he's doing some consulting work right now trying to help people infuse these things in their classroom. So the idea of, especially the red blinky lights, is throughout the day, just grab somebody once you hear our story and get some information, make some connections. The main thing that I hope that we take away from this day is information and inspiration. The perspiration is going to be yours afterwards. That's up to you. So before I pass it over to Dante, I want to say that one thing that I really want to do with our shop is set up sort of a tech shop for teachers kind of model. If you're familiar with tech shop, it's sort of like a gym membership where you can go and get time on machines that you might not have. So I've got some sign-up sheets. There's nothing formal, there's nothing even set up yet, but if I can get some interest, then I can probably pursue with some people who might be able to make it formal. So if you are interested, our shop is incredible. I would live there if I could, probably. And I would love to share it with people to show you what's possible, what you can do, and hopefully you can make some things, take back to your stakeholders, and get some tools and get things going on your level. So we've got sign-up sheets next door. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dante DePaula from Pioneer High School. To start off, I think it's important to recognize that all of us here teach other subjects. I think that's important to recognize the versatility that goes into being a teacher, and I think it's probably the rule for all of us in here. To be multi-talented, we don't always get recognized for our versatility as teachers. I think it's important for us to really be proud of that. I think talking with, seeing Dale up here and talking about where does it get started, it starts with inspirational teachers who have the ability to be flexible and the ability to show their hidden talents that kids usually don't believe you do, right? I think that's when you tell kids that, oh, I build bicycles, or I work on cars, or I'm a master craftsman. They kind of just scoff at that and say, yeah, okay, right. I don't see you on YouTube, right? So I think it's important. That's where it all stems from, and that's what spawns the creativity that ultimately is the creator in a make classroom. And I think it's extremely important to look within yourself and find the maker first, and I think that enables you to then inspire other makers. And I think I'm sitting up here and I'm in this, and I get inspired by what I'm surrounded by. So picture that, and 30 kids and what they can do for one another. So I think that's important for us to recognize. My plan as a maker teacher was pretty awesome. How it was started. I was involved with the Make Camp at Comstock, and I thought it came across, hey, would you be interested in getting involved with this over the summer? I said, yeah, that'd be great. Just kids and something to do over the summer, aside from my other 3 jobs that I have. And with that, I was able to meet Dale and really see what was happening. For myself, being a maker from a little kid, watching my father was a musician and an artist, being in that environment was really natural for me. I've had my own motorcycle business for 14 years. Prior to being a teacher, I've been a teacher for coming up on 9 years. So for me, I've been a maker since I was little, and so it obviously struck a chord for me. Then seeing, I'm a biology teacher, anatomy physiology teacher, and seeing the trials and tribulations I experience on a daily basis create ownership, is what we, I think, all do. Is we always know if we create ownership, then we create the absorption into the subject, getting into it, and they hold on to what we teach them. And experiencing what I experienced at Comstock really opened my eyes to, I know I did this, and this is something that meant something to me, but when you create ownership, what you then create is kind of a lifelong commitment to whatever that is, for that passion. So what had happened was, as the camp evolved, talk about, man, it'd be great to have this at Pioneer. I'd love to be a part of this. We had dialogue that continued, and literally probably a week before school started, we said, they approached me and said, hey, would you be into doing this? And I said, yes. And we said, well, we have no kids, right? And within 3 days of school, the class was full. And I'm now teaching 2 classes. I teach a project make and then an applied physics make class, which is, everything's on a grander scale. We really look at the depth of some science in the physics, but in the make. But it is making. We've created trebuchets and rockets and gliders. Unfortunately, didn't bring any examples of the stuff, but there is something special in watching an hour and 45 minutes on a block day, full engagement for that hour and 45 minutes. When you I invite you, if you ever have the opportunity to come into my classroom, I know Casey would be the same. He's always had an open door policy with guests, to come in and see what's happening in a full-blown maker class. It'll inspire you. These kids inspire me on a daily basis. You have freshmen and seniors, and you have freshmen showing seniors what to do, vice versa. There's no class, levels of hierarchy in the class. It is a very comfortable environment, and you'd be amazed at what these kids create when they're given the opportunity. And I think that's the number one thing. Do you give them opportunity in your class to be creative and have ownership of what they're being taught? And I think that's a crucial aspect in it. I think when we look at our own classrooms away from make, I'd say, do we create that same opportunity? And I think that's where you really will capture your kids. So.
Oh my goodness, I don't have much to say. I didn't learn to make out of a desire to make. I learned to make out of necessity. Something was broken and it had to get fixed, so I had to figure out how it worked and then figure out how to fix it. And so that's been part of who I am and where I come from. And I've tried to encourage and inspire that in my students. I'm a math teacher. I think there's a lot of us here. But I was never able to I never had anything to support that. Here's a project you can do it at home, bring it in, I'll give you credit, you can explain it to other kids, they get excited about it. But it all has to happen out there and without my help. And through MAKE, you guys have supported our facility phenomenally. We do not have space. We have one little tiny closet. That's all our MAKE stuff is shoved into that little closet. And please don't ask me to find the marbles. I know they're in there, but I cannot find them. Sorry, Casey had to bring the marbles for today. So we do not have sections. We don't have money for a section. Our school is like jammed. There's no space and our schedule's packed. So that's not an option at our site. So what we tried to do, and this is thanks to Maggie's persistence of getting kids to go to the Makers Fair every year and dragging some of us along to come and see what this whole movement was about. We've tried to incorporate MAKE into some of our classes. And we've tried to, Maggie and I got our kids together, her biology kids who were learning about cells and cell structure, and my math kids who were learning, I had the lower level kids, about nets and surface area and volume. And we made messenger bags last year, which they turned out really cool. And I don't have any to show you because they wanted to keep them. And they told me, this is the first time I've ever done a project at school that I'm actually taking home and gonna use, which I was like, you're a sophomore or a junior in high school and this is the first time you've done something practical in school? This is kind of sad. But I'm excited, this is a good thing, but I'm kind of sad. So there's definitely a huge need for this and there's a desire on the part of kids. So where do we go with that? I now have, thanks to Make, this closet is full of all sorts of tools and all sorts of useful things. We have a maker club on campus, and those kids are in my room every Thursday. And I'm sorry, I got to finally touch a Raspberry Pi. They're making a little robot, remote control something. I'm not. They've taken off, and it's almost finished. But it has something to do with something electronic that they're almost. And I have to tell you, there was somebody on our site, there were 4 of us that were initially interested in doing this, and this person said, I can't be part of this because I don't know enough to teach the kids everything. And I went, I don't think that's a requirement. But thank God it's not. But what is a requirement is being comfortable not knowing and being willing to let the kids figure it out and to support them in figuring it out. And I didn't realize that was a gift. I didn't realize how controlling we can be as teachers, and how it's really amazing if you can step back and go, I don't need to know what they're doing with that remote control thing. If they have problems, they'll come to me and I'll help them out. I just need to give them time and space and support. And that's an enormous lesson. This idea of encouraging them to try again is huge. And we see that kids don't have persistence. That's not something we're teaching them. And I think bubbling had something to do with that. And I think Common Core says persistence is important. And you have to be persistent. What thing is ever going to work the first time we try it? I'm sorry. It's a miracle, right? That just doesn't happen. So there's so much here. Okay, so we have the club. We have classes where we're trying to do stuff. We have individual classes where we try and do stuff together. Individual classes where we try and do stuff. And then I'm trying to infuse Make in what I do in a different way. And I was telling my kids yesterday, I've given them kind of Rube Goldberg challenges, and we're gonna do some of those today. It takes 2 minutes, I swear, they're that fast, and the kids are completely engaged, they're completely inspired. All those soft skills, Steve has that list of everything CTE teaches kids and why all those soft skills are so important and how that's what the real world wants. They could care less if kids understand the quadratic formula. So I talked to my kids straight about that. The math I'm teaching you is important, there's value, it really is good, but this other stuff is just as important, if not more important. And giving you these 2 minutes, and what kids don't need a 2-minute break in the middle of a class? Whether you teach block or regular period, you know, they get that point where they need a break. And what kids don't need to learn to work together more? There's just so much that taking 2 minutes to do a little Rube Goldberg exercise, do a little, can you make this happen? Can you do this? And kids go from, you're asking me to do something that's impossible. Let me give you 8 pieces of paper and a 3-inch textbook, and I'm gonna ask you to raise that textbook as high off the table as you can. Mrs. Brady Long, it's not possible. All I can do is put the papers down, put the book on top, it's not going anywhere. I think you can do a little better than that. I think you can get that book off the table. You don't know what you're talking about. And I give them time, I give them space, they talk together, and lo and behold, what happens within the next 60 seconds? Those books are all off the table. They figure out that they can fold that paper and that it really is much stronger than they ever imagined it was. And those books are not just 1 inch off the table with the paper wadded up, which some groups try, but most of them are 8 inches off the table, if not 11 inches off the table, because they're, oh, I can turn it the other way and get even more height. And they leave with such a sense of accomplishment. They figured out some physics, which I think the physics teacher is going to appreciate later on. They've worked together. And what was the highlight of their day? I raised a book off the table.
Margie, you certainly had plenty to say. No one's perfect. Wonderful.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Tang. I work with the Maker Education Initiative. We were a nonprofit founded by Dale back in 2012, a mere 2 years ago. And I had the honor of working with Casey, Dante, Margie, Maggie, and 11 other teachers from the greater Bay Area last year as part of the Makerspace project to really support and mostly learn from them about what they were doing. Maker Ed is a nonprofit. We're based in Oakland, and we're a national nonprofit that primarily works with communities, schools, museums, libraries, educators to help support and get them started in making. We really see making as a way to reach kids to build their confidence and creativity and interest in learning, primarily as a whole, whether it's in STEM, STEAM, humanities, history, or anything behind it. I used to teach marine science and run summer camp programs down at the Tech Museum in San Jose, and am a maker at heart, but didn't really necessarily recognize that until a couple years back. So I am honored, and I love being part of Making an Education, and I'm here to help and answer and support in any way that I can.
So I'm going to open this up to anyone who wants to take it. How do you integrate the Maker Club or the Maker class in with the rest of the curriculum at school? How do you inspire a teacher who doesn't know anything about making to come into the maker space, or to students? How do you integrate that into a science? Or we've heard a little bit about a social studies class. If any of you have some examples of successes in that area.
I had an art teacher that, with my appearance as the maker guy showing up, became very distressed and pulled me aside and said, with all this cool stuff that you're going to be doing, why would anybody want to take a plain old drawing? She had anxiety around losing her art program somehow in her mind. I said, no, everybody needs to know how to draw, blah, blah, blah. I said, let's do a project together. And so we brainstormed out, and she makes, with the second graders, they make paper mache beasts. It's one of her favorite projects. So I said, well, why don't we have a crank, and one aspect of the beast could move, and she just lit up and she jumped on all over it. And so we're going to take small groups of the second graders and build automata engines we can show you later in there, and then she's going to build the beast with them, and they're going to move one aspect of their thing, and now we're working together, and it's STEAM, and it's really great.
At Amley, we've got a couple of stories, so I'll try and limit myself. But one of them, Dave, in Dave's geometry class, we've got a little laser cutter. It's in the next room. You'll be able to see it and do some stuff with it. He's got a couple of geometry tasks, activities, where they're designing logos, so digitally designing just their initials on a free program called Inkscape that runs on 40-year-old computers, if you can find them. And then they're cutting them out of cardboard, free material, sizing them differently, so they're getting some design. They're also talking about some surface area, different changes. It's just the first thing that we've done that way, but all my colleagues sort of accuse me of being a guy with a hammer looking for a nail with this laser cutter. And it's true, because there's not a whole lot of applications for it, or there wasn't a couple of years ago. We've got a whole bunch of them next door. What I'm doing to really bring teachers in is every one of my kids is assigned or picked a teacher, and they're interviewing the teacher to see what they can make for that teacher, hopefully to use in their classroom. And it takes a while for people to get for the fellow teachers to know, like what you're saying, not be threatened by what we're doing. But once people figure it out, then they want a custom whiteboard that says, Africa's not a country, I think is one of them. So whatever they want, the little catchphrases, we can make them and make them look pretty pro. Whiteboards that have grids and graphs and maps and all kinds of things, puzzles for the countries of Mexico, the states of Mexico. See, I just did it. Sorry, Rachel. There is more to do, though, and that's hopefully one of the things that I want to do when we get all together and communicate is get some other projects that we can all share. That this fits in good with this little unit. This fits in good with that little unit, and really this Connected Makers Forum that we're going to try and start and really push here, hopefully will be that that place where we can all share these ideas.
For those of you who started out recently, what were your sources of funding, and what type of equipment did you use to get started out?
So this is my first year teaching the class, and when we started off this year, we had cardboard and box cutters. There's a lot you can do with cardboard and box cutters. But since then, I petitioned the athletic boosters to purchase a vinyl cutter for us, which they did. I recommend that as a first piece because you can go into your athletic boosters and show them some designs and tell them how you can use the vinyl cutter to make them stickers, and if they buy a heat press to make t-shirts and things like that. So I was a bit of an indentured servant for the first couple months while I pumped out a lot of stickers before I trained the students to do it. But I also told them that it would be a good fundraiser for us because the vinyl stickers look very nice and you can sell them for a profit to make to get supplies for the course. I've been very fortunate to have almost every single grant that I've written awarded. So now we have a laser cutter, we have a full set of materials for electronics and programming and robotics. I got a hand-me-down 3D printer from my husband who teaches at another high school in the county. We've got a nice 3D printer. So we've come from having virtually nothing and in like 4 or 5 months having something that we can really call a makerspace, and people like supporting the program. They like the idea that students are going to be more creative, have a lot more skills. I mean, we need so many engineers have been predicted to be needed in our employment force that it's a good cause and people enjoy supporting it. So it's a lot of work writing grants, but it can happen.
I think the first understanding that there is going to be a process, a maturation process for the school to really understand what you do is a real thing. Make sure you recognize and understand it's not always an easy. I still have, I've been doing it for 2 years, I still have teachers asking me what exactly I'm doing in the class. And it does take a lot of energy on your part. I think that's something that you definitely need to understand. Flexibility is crucial, so if there's any tool that you need to have, it's the patience tool, right? The toolbox. My daughter talks about that all the time. But I think as far as hands-on tools, some simple things that really let you roll is a hammer. It seems silly. Scissors, pens, and paper are crucial. And then some skill saw. So from a basic chop saw to a vertical band saw, it's really versatile and you can do tons of stuff with it. And you'd be amazed at what you can do with that. Just those tools, and those are fairly inexpensive tools. I think the vertical bandsaw at Friedman Brothers is $130, and we put that thing to work. Oh, and a sander, a grinder sander, and a vise. And honestly, if you have that stuff, you can run your whole year on that. And you do have to have, and you'd be amazed at the ideas the kids come up with. They're gonna fuel your creativity from how you should use different things and how you can create a tool from your saw and your vise and your hammer to do something else, and it will work that way. So don't feel like you need thousands of dollars to get this started, because you really don't. I'm a frugal individual in my class because you have to be. But it's created a lot of versatility in the tools we have, so I think you definitely can get by with not a ton of stuff.
I'm not good at telling you how to get the money, but my top 2 resources for how to spend it and get that dime out of that penny are Raft down in San Mateo, phenomenal, well worth the drive, and the San Francisco County Office of Education has a shop. And you walk in and you think, oh my God, where did she send me? It's a scary place when you first step in, but bear with it. And by the time you get down the second aisle, you're gonna be amazed what you're finding. It's a treasure shop, and it is all stuff that's been donated. And so when you leave, you have a brown bag full of stuff, and they go, oh, that looks like $5. You're like, there's $100 worth of stuff in there. So those are my top 2, how to get your dime out of the dollar once you figure out where you're getting your dollar from. Other way around, sorry.
Are you writing those down somewhere?
I am right here for me.
Like, wait a second.
We'll put them on the side.
All right, one more thing. I think one of you mentioned cardboard. Don't discount your normal craft materials, cardboard, paper, butcher paper, wooden craft sticks, like all glue, all of those things are incredible, useful things to get started making. In terms of non-consumable tools, a lot of what some of our communities and educators have done is started a tool drive in their community, and so they've asked neighbors and friends and parents and families to give the extra 2 screwdrivers and 3 wrenches and things that they have scattered underneath the car in the corner of the garage or their basement that they don't ever use, but know that it's there somewhere to go scavenge through their basements and bring it out, and that's a great way to get started as well. And some of them have incredible tools and equipment that they're willing to spare and lend and eventually give to you.
I want to talk about an exciting opportunity that is in the probably, what do they talk about? What's it called when a grant is waiting to be awarded? There's some verb for that. I put in a couple of requests for a lending library. I was talking to Dale about how we could maybe get access to different schools, and I requested a laser cutter, a vinyl cutter, and a 3D printer that could be taken to places for a significant chunk of time. Details have to be figured out if it happens. And along with some training to how to use these tools, and give you, like I said, 6-8 weeks with it to try and figure out what you can do. I've seen it enough times that I know once you see the outcomes of these things, and kids and parents and all your stakeholders see the outcomes, there's going to be some resources available to buy these things. I found some durable, fairly low cost in the big scheme of things, tools that I'm going to recommend and actually let you use, touch, and play with. So that information, if it's going to happen, will be released on the Makers, Connected Makers Forum, and all of this stuff, hopefully, that we're talking about today, all the resources that we've got, we're going to try and list for you. 99% of the stuff that we've got next door, probably exaggerated, a lot of the stuff that we've got next door is made out of cardboard, recycled manila folders, cheap, easy to source stuff. Got a bunch of books that use bottle caps as wheels for little robots and rockets, and great resources for you to do inexpensively, because that's obviously an important thing. You can get the money for the laser cutter easier than you can get the materials to put in the laser cutter over time, so we recognize that.
Casey, do you want to mention the code too? We'll put it up on the information, but just in a general sense.
Oh yeah, one of the things the folks at Make were so generous with giving away things. I don't know, do they know all the stuff, or am I supposed to hold
They don't
something
know
back?
all that stuff yet, but you can tell them about the codes.
Okay, we have a code that's a special discount code. You'll get the details of what to type in. It's a 15% discount at the Maker Shed, good for 1 order per person, so save it to get it all together. It's it's perishable. I think it expires on July 1st. Yeah. But 15% off, you'll see several of the kits and things that we have over there. Incredible things you can get if you. How many people have ever been to makershed.com? Yeah, see, I think that after today, hopefully a lot more people will. Incredible stuff, incredible resources, so yeah.
There's also this phenomenon called the free. So you're driving along and you see the free. And what kids can make out of an old broken IKEA bookcase, if there's ever a free and there's a printer or anything electric or some part of it moves, that means there's a motor in there. And you do a thing called machine dissection, and your kids carefully take it apart, scavenge the motors, the switches, and all the elements out of there. And once you become known as an acceptor, you will be given more stuff than you can ever imagine. So just 2 days ago, the maintenance guy came by. I got a desk for it. He didn't even ask me if I wanted it. He just asked, where do I want it? Because it had a wooden top, and I needed anything. Just, you can get it.
Okay, for one final question, can you explain something that you learned from or about students in your Make class?
I think the interesting part of it is we always are talking about problem solving and getting past the speed bumps that are in the way. I think these speed bumps turn into mountains quickly, and how they persevere through these problems is a problem that we're all facing in our classroom. When you get a hand up and it says, "What do I do?" and it says, "You read the question." No, right? And I think we all deal with that, and those are issues that take patience, but it also helps us realize, okay, well, how am I teaching? It continues you to check yourself as a teacher. One thing I've found in the make environment, this failure aspect that they're so scared of, quickly is dissolved away, and they understand it's a part of learning. And if we can continue continue them to understand the process of learning is a portion of failure, to find out what is on the other side of that mountain that they've created, enables them to see that mountain shrink back down to the speed bump that it really is. And what I've learned from them and what they've taught me is give them opportunity to fail, give them opportunity to discover. Don't be so quick to answer their question that you just asked them, right? And I think I remember back in my early years of teaching, my first couple of years, I'd say, what is the job of this organelle in a cell? And just as they were about to say it, I say, well, it's supposed to produce energy. So I'd finish the sentence for them, and it was, I wouldn't give them that 20 seconds, I'd cut it down to 3 seconds, right? And when I quickly learned that an opportunity to process and think. We all get nervous when we're checked. I think about staff meetings when people are asked to read aloud, and we're teachers, or they're asked a question about what was just talked about, and these are teachers. We need to recognize that we need to give them opportunities to say, I don't know, let me try to figure it out, and let's see them fumble and struggle, and watch what they do when they do discover how quickly their hand goes up or how quickly they are to teach another student. I think those are the things that I discovered for myself too, that they are great educators of one another. That peer educating is a real empowering piece of their learning. And I think it's really important that we give them that opportunity. And I think the make environment really allows us to stand back, watch what is going on, learn from them how students work. Because we know we have an eclectic group of kids, and these kids all have a different way they learn, and to watch how they work with one another. And you do get your little cliques here and there. You got to break them up and get them in environments that are unfamiliar to them, that students are not used to. And that's a pretty neat thing to see kids that normally would not mingle in a normal social environment. In a make classroom, it's totally different. You don't see any of that type of garbage in that class. And I can honestly say that it really is an environment that is extremely safe and comfortable. And I think that's the biggest thing, is them taking the time and learning about the fact that failure is a viable option. And actually, if you're not trying, if you're not failing, you really are not trying in the world of creativity, because you will fail. And I think that's a driving force and a motivator for a lot of these kids once they find themselves in the make program.
It is astonishing to me when there's a kid where I think, is there anything happening inside there? And given one of these opportunities, I go, whoa, there's a lot going on in there. So it's given me a lot of heart. And not that I always thought I believed in every kid, but I didn't always have evidence. And this has given me evidence.
That's great.
I totally agree with both of what you said. I'll tell you a little story. Over the course of the summer, we took a couple field trips at the Make Camp, and one of them was going to the beach. And we thought, oh, how cool would it be to go to the beach and make driftwood sculptures? And it was a great day. We played baseball and made driftwood sculptures and drew a line in the sand and said, don't go past this or the ocean will eat you. And it was awesome. And one kid, his name is Erwin. He's a club member during the school year, and last summer he went to Make Camp. He was being interviewed by the Press Democrat reporter, and I mentioned that we had gone on field trips, and she said, so you went to the ocean? He said, yeah, I'd never been to the ocean. And this is a 12-year-old boy who lives in Sonoma County, and I thought, whoa, not only do they have infinite potential, but we have a responsibility to give them opportunities, to give that kid a chance to go to the ocean, to give that kid a place to go over the course of the summer. I mean, we try and do it every day after school, give kids a place to go. But if we're not taking them to the ocean, if we're not giving them mate classes, if we're not putting the tools in their hands and saying, do it, you can, I believe in you, then we're not being true to their infinite potential. So that was a big lesson, and I'm really thankful to have learned it.
I grew up making things. Some things you just take for granted. And it was just yesterday. A girl came up to me and said, these screws won't come out. She had just put them into this piece of wood and they had to come out. And I thought we had a problem. I said, wow, that's hard. I said, which way did you turn it? And she said, oh. And it just surprised me that she had no idea that there was a direction to turn, but there was a Helen Keller moment right there, and she said Wawa. So there you go.
All right, I want to thank all the panelists that we've had today, and they're going to be here the rest of the day where you'll be able to ask questions. We're going to have a breakout session where you can pick one of these people that you can ask particular questions. And I think we're going to take a break right now for about
10 minutes.
10 minutes, and then we're going to do some hands-on activities after that.
Thank you.